We're going to be reviewing the January transfer window. The remit, as of what Paul O'Keefe said coming into this window, was a goalkeeper, a defender, a winger and a striker with versatility. Didn't mention anything about left back, but I think the need for a centre back just became more apparent for maybe even more as the window went on, with the ACL to Dragusin at the back end of the window, Romero having a setback, Van der Ven. We don't, particularly know what's going on with him, any official confirmation, but there are fears about another injury and another setback to Mickey Van der Ven. So I think, another centre-back probably would have been ideal. It was clear that they were looking for another centre-back with Disasi and Tomori and all those kind of news that's coming through. But in terms of the remit coming into the window, it did seem like we did hit that, albeit we needed players to come in pretty much in the opening stages of the window. We got Kinski done early, but Danso and Matthias Tell came in later. So, the business that we did do was Kinski coming in for, what was it, about 15, 20 million?
No,
around
about 12
that
million, wasn't it?
12 million. Kevin Danso, 25 million euros, and Matisse Tell, that came in on a loan with an option to buy of around 55 million euros.
Rumours over 10 million.
Yeah, I can't believe that's true. A 10 million loan fee for 6 months,
which is a very big price. Obviously, the reports were that Man United bought it at a 5 million loan fee. Did we pay a bit extra so we could seal that option to buy in the contract potentially with Bayern? Is that why we paid a bit more? Might be true.
10 million sounds very hefty for 6 months.
It's very hefty, 100%. Well, which is in pounds terms, about £8.5 million.
Yeah, which is crazy money for 6 months.
Yeah, so it's a bit, especially with no guarantee that he will sign permanently. It's a big outlay, I would say. And I'm surprised. Yeah, I'm surprised if it's true that they've decided to agree to pay that. Obviously, 5 million would have also been fairly hefty in itself if we agreed to pay that.
Someone in the comments here saying it's 10 million including wages. So that makes a bit more sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. That probably makes sense. 5 million plus his wages, probably, which is, if he's on 100 grand a week, yeah, it's probably about right.
Yeah, I guess so. But in terms of, if I asked you at the beginning of the window if we're going to be sitting here 4th of February saying we've brought in a goalkeeper, which we're very happy with what we've seen so far, Kevin Danso and Matisse Tell, and in terms of Matisse Tell, before the window we would have been absolutely delighted to see him through the door. On the face of things, we would have been pretty happy with those 3 players, wouldn't we?
I think so. I think the need for a left-back was also obviously quite large, but now Spencer's emerged to be a real option in that position in recent weeks. He's done a really good job filling in for the injured Udogie in that position. So I think on the face of it, if we were just talking about how we've done in the window, I think we have done some good business in terms of profile fits. I think Danso, aggressive centre-back who can play in that high line, has good recovery pace, is decent on the ball as well. I think there are better centre-backs out there, but in terms of one we can get in January for a good price who's a good fit, I think he fits the bill, and I think we've done well to get him through the door. Kinski, a ball-playing goalkeeper who's really comfortable with the ball at his feet, and someone who's still very young and maybe, I'm not saying happy to be number 2 to Vicario, but obviously is happy to battle for his place at this point, and it doesn't have to be strict number 1, and also a really good profile fit for our system in terms of how we want to build up from the back and his passing ability. Yes, he's maybe not the best shot stopper and that needs to improve, but again, he's only 21 and he's good at coming for crosses, he's good at coming for set pieces, so looks like a good signing as well. In the absence of Vicario, he's been pretty good. And then I think we all wanted a forward. I think, as you say, Paul O'Keefe's remit was kind of a versatile forward who can play up front, can play out wide, and that's kind of what I thought we needed. Someone who is pretty good at dribbling, who's got a really good eye for goal. The only concern I have for Tell is, first of all, it's another teenager, and second of all, creatively, I think we could have done with a more creative winger rather than someone similar to Son in a way. I know Son has upped his creativity in recent weeks, but similar to Son, where his big strengths are when he gets in front of goal and his shooting ability, and when he gets in the final third, he more looks to create angles to shoot rather than maybe set up his teammates, and can be maybe a bit selfish in that element. So Obviously, he's still 19, so that can all improve and that can all change. And I'm sure Ange will get that kind of side out of him. But from what we've seen of him so far at Bayern, he's not much of a creator. So that's a bit of a something to be wary of. But in terms of the true ability of a player, in terms of profile when it comes to his pace, his trickery, his overall ability and his positioning, it's a really great signing, and it's one to be very, very excited about. And the fact we got an option to buy in there as well, which means there is potential for that to be made into a long-term deal. It's one that is hard not to be excited about, with one of the most talked about talents in Europe. So I think he's also a really, really exciting signing. So I think on the face of it, we have done some really good business, and I think the club can be happy with the business they've done. But the reality is the fact that we waited until pretty much the end of the window to get Dano and Tello means that the whole of January we didn't have them, which also means that the damage in the league has been done. We've lost the likes of Everton, we've lost to Leicester in the league, which might not have happened if we'd had these signings through the door a lot earlier. Maybe the position in the league wouldn't have looked so precarious. Obviously, we did get the win on the weekend, which was crucial and probably staves off any fears of being dragged into a relegation battle anyway. But maybe we wouldn't have been so far off the top half, or even further than that if we'd got these signings earlier. So is what it is. But we've still got a lot of things to fight for this season, and they're going to be a massive help in the Europa League and in the cups as well. But we've got a decision to make when it comes to that Europa League squad now, in terms of who gets left out, because if we want to we can only make 3 changes, and we've got kind of 4 new players for that squad. Yeah, absolutely. But back on what you were saying about getting the players in early and what it's kind of put us in this season. I mean, if we would have got those 6 points against Everton and Leicester, we'd be 10 points outside the top 4, 10 points away from Chelsea. And with the form that Chelsea are on, with the form that Newcastle are on, are very up and down, with the form Man City are on, very up and down, it could have left us in an all right position to maybe bridge that gap second half of the season, and we actually might have had a realistic chance of making those European spots where we don't really anymore. Yeah, I agree. That's the point. So, unfortunately, when it comes to the league standings, the damage has been done, and we could have got Dano in for a few extra million earlier on. Yes, we got a better deal because we waited, but we could have pushed the button earlier and got him in probably earlier in the window, and maybe those performances against Leicester and Everton don't happen. And it's so frustrating, isn't it? It's just like it's like a soap opera following Spurs in the transfer window, isn't it? You go for Kolo Muani, and then that's a long drawn out saga, and he ends up rejecting us, going to Juventus. Fair enough. Then you got Matisse Tell, a long drawn out saga. It looks like he's rejected us. He's gone back to Manchester United. He wanted to go there. That was what the rumours and Paul O'Keefe was saying, and he rejected us. And then Man U couldn't strike up a deal with Bayern Munich. Then he ends up in kind of amazing fashion just accepting us in the last hour to come to us. And then the Tomori thing, where it's a long drawn out saga in terms of rumours for 3 or 4 days, and then he ends up rejecting us. Just like every single story that was leaked to the press that looked like Spurs were going for it was just some sort of soap opera for Tottenham Hotspur. And this seems to be the case for like every transfer window that Spurs were involved in. And when you're looking at transfer windows, particularly January transfer windows over the course of the last few years, this one seemed to be one of the most important ones, because we were getting dragged into a relegation battle at times. Yeah, the Brentford game, the Brentford win kind of alleviated all those fears and stuff, but we were just dropping. And as much as I'm happy with the players that we've brought in, it just leaves a sour taste in my mouth how long it took all these signings to come through. Because you look at the Dano deal, Matisse Tell probably had to be done when it did get done, because he wasn't accepting us earlier on the window, because he was waiting for other options and other possibilities to come through. But when you're looking at the centre-back situation, when you're looking at Van der Ven being out pretty much for the last couple of months, Romero's been out for ages, it's just like you had to get a defender in the first week to kind of stop us dropping down the table with Archie Gray. Ben Davis was out as well, and we were literally relying on Archie Gray and Dragoshin. Dragoshin does his ACL. What game did he do his ACL in? That was Elfsborg. Elfsborg, right. So it was actually really late on, so you couldn't really do anything there. But we waited until Dragoshin got his ACL to actually panic in the window to get a defender in, when the need for it was a long time before that. So it just really frustrates me how we wait till we're in panic mode to get something in.
When panic mode should have been in the 1st of January.
And that's what Ange was consistently saying. You know, we need players in. These players need help. He wasn't shy about saying it. He's saying these players are running on empty. They're knackered. They need help. And unfortunately, you know, we got them help, but we only got them help when at the end of the window, when the damage, I think, when it comes to our league campaign, has already been done. And as whatever happens in the league, look, we'll hopefully turn around our form and we can probably get into that top half maybe, but anything more than that is probably unrealistic at this point unless we literally win every game from now to the end of the season. And even if we do that, you know, I don't know what kind of position we'll be in. So I think the league campaign, we can kiss it goodbye. If they were happy to sacrifice it for the sake of a few million, then so be it. They have to stand by their decisions. But then they can't turn around to Ange when he finishes maybe bottom half and say, you know, you should have been doing better, because he's been very, very clear about what he needed at the beginning of this window. And as much as obviously bottom half is not where we want to be, I think there are clearly extenuating circumstances for it, and we could have maybe made a better go of changing that situation earlier if we had acted quicker in the market, and we didn't. So the pressure is now on Ange to kind of win these cups, and the pressure is definitely on Ange and these signings to make an impact in those games. And it's going to be interesting because they might do well in the league, and I'm sure obviously we'll take notice of that, but if they don't do it in these, you know, cup competitions where it's knockout football and, you know, one unlucky game and you can go out, that's where he'll be judged, it seems, in the second half of the season, I think.
Yeah, I mean, everyone talks about, it takes long to negotiate for transfer. They should have been negotiating from December. They should have been negotiating going into the window. They should have known who the targets were going into the window and got them done in the first week, or at least the first 2 weeks of the January transfer window. It's just so frustrating that they didn't do that. And then you're looking at the last week of the window, right? Trying to get Tamori, trying to get Disassi, getting a 70 million bid for Guehi on the last day of the window. I mean, it just smacks of absolute desperation, doesn't it, in the last 2 days of the window?
Yeah, it didn't seem like a team with a clear plan of what they wanted and what they were going to get. In terms of it takes time to negotiate, it's true, but we clearly got the Danso deal done very, very quickly, and he was on his way to Wolves. And again, that's one we could have got over the line, I think, I'm certain, a lot quicker than we did.
When we want to act quickly, we act quickly. You know, when other teams are about to sign a player and we're like, oh, let's go and hijack that bid, we act quickly. So why can't we act quickly when, you know, we're the only ones in the running? You know what I mean?
Well, to be fair, some people, you know, there was a comment which is true, said we did try and act quick, but a lot of players were rejecting us. Like, you know, with Moani, I think we acted fairly quickly on that, and then he ended up rejecting us. But there
was no talk of any centre backs in the first 2 weeks of the window. It was all in the last kind of week or so.
Yeah, and that should have been done a lot quicker. Like, we would, you know, Gray was playing game after game, and to be fair, you know, doing a decent job, but clearly we needed help there. We clearly needed help there. Davis didn't come back until the Everton game, and, you know, that was his first game back, and obviously that was a complete shit show. It was obvious we needed players from the start. We didn't get them, and we paid the price for it. I think that's it. I mean, it has cost us, and whatever we want, we can be happy with the players. We brought in all these different things, but at the end of the day, we have paid the price for not getting these players in earlier, and we have to live with that. And hopefully we can have a really good second half of the season, and I'm excited to see these new signings get integrated, and I do think there are some good buys there, and I do think there's some really good potential, and I think they're really going to help this the squad really kind of try and achieve what they want to come the end of the season. So if we're sitting here at the end of the season, we've won a trophy and they've made a big impact, then they've done their job. But if we're sitting here at the end of the season and we haven't won any cups and we end up you know, bottom half in the table, then I think we also can say that it really cost us not moving quicker in the window.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, that's the moaning done, because I think this window brought negatives and positives. The positives are the players that we brought in. I'm very happy with the quality that we've brought in, because I think Kinski is a very good keeper, a lot better in terms of what we had in terms of cover. Fraser Forster, he's a lot better than that. Brandon Austin, he's better than that. Alfie Whiteman, obviously, a lot better than him as well. So I think he's a goalkeeper that can challenge Vicario in the short term and the long term.
Yeah.
I think he's a goalkeeper that actually suits us a lot more than what Vicario does. in my opinion. I think Vicario is a better shot stopper and a leader in the group and what have you. But in terms of how good Kinski is with his feet, I mean, that Liverpool game where he made his debut just blew us all away, didn't it? Just like,
Yeah.
I remember being there, sitting next to you in the stadium there, just watching it. Everyone was like, wow, he can pass the ball. It was just like, wow. Everyone was like... in shock of how good he actually was with his feet. I mean, he seemed like from that game he just could pick any player out on the pitch, wherever they were on the pitch.
Yeah, and obviously he ended up keeping a clean sheet as well, and it was just a brilliant day overall. And obviously he's put us in a good position to go to Anfield and try and get to that Carabao Cup final. So I do think Kinski's been a real positive. However, obviously he's still a young keeper and he clearly still has deficiencies. He's not the finished article. Again, another player who has his kind of Europa League experience and things like that, but again, he's only really been playing top level football for a short amount of time. So it's not like he's coming in as the finished article and he's going to be, clearly he's already made mistakes against Arsenal. He should have saved that Trossard goal and maybe a few others. You can say shot stopping. Look, I think by and large, apart from the Arsenal goal, it's been by and large okay, but he's still got some things to iron out, I think it's fair to say. And as much as I'm excited about him, I think for the age he is, he's clearly a very, very talented goalkeeper. He's still got a lot of learning to do. And it'll be interesting to see if he puts Vicario straight back in when he's back fit, or does he keep with Kinski when Vicario is fully fit and 100%. But I think when it comes to looking for the long term, definitely he's an exciting keeper and can very much battle Vicario.
Yeah, look, I agree. He's got things to iron out, but for a 21-year-old keeper, he seems so far advanced for that age. Goalkeepers usually don't kind of get to what they are going to be maybe until about 26, 27, 28, you know. And at 21 years of age, I've been so impressed. I've been blown away with what I've seen. They're so strong and commanding from set pieces as well for such a young age. I mean, he looks more advanced in terms of commanding his box, coming for corners, and with his feet, much more advanced than Vicario.
Though from those aspects, yeah. But as well, I think goalkeepers, I think a lot of the time they earn their money keeping the ball at the back of the net, and I think Vicario is way ahead of him on that aspect. I think Vicario,
so he should be, though,
and Vicario is one of the best. Yeah, I know, but that's just the reality of the situation right now. So I am happy with the Kinski signing. I think we've got a very good long term. Also means, if anything does happen with Vicario, if he ends up moving on, we've got Kinski right there. So it's got good competition for places, which we haven't really had in that position for a while. So I'm delighted with that, and I think he's going to be a keeper here for a very long time. And it'll be interesting to see next season. I'm sure they'll rotate one in the Premier League, one in. It'll be interesting to see if we don't have European football next season, if one of them starts to get agitated, if one of them's number two. But I really like Kinski, and I think he's got a really good head on his shoulders, and I think he's going to be a really good keeper for us for a while.
Yeah. Kevin Danso, a lot of pressure on Kevin Danso now. Now we didn't bring in that other centre-back. With the Van de Ven potential injury, Romero, we don't know when he's going to be back. He's had a setback. He's probably going to be the first one back out of the three. And Dragshin, with his season being ended with the ACL, really bad news with him. A lot of pressure on Kevin Danso to come in, hit the ground running and perform from the off. Yeah,
massive. And to be fair to him, obviously he's 26, he's an experienced player. He's played in the Champions League with Lens, he's played in Ligue 1 for a while. He actually's played in the Premier League as well, albeit it was a while ago and it didn't go amazingly well, but he also has Premier League experience. So I think with the situation we're in, with Gray playing every game, with Dragashin being injured, I think we're going to have to throw him in the deep end at this point. I think there was, obviously when we first signed him, and there was talk of Van de Ven being fit for Thursday. The question was, do we put Van de Ven is Danso going to be thrown in for his first game away in the Carabao Cup semi-final? Is it too much to throw him in straight away, kind of like that, like we did with Kinski? And now with all the other news, I think the question is, who's he going to partner? Who's he playing with? And that's the reality with our centre-back situation. Unfortunately, thankfully, Ben Davies has come back and he's looking all right. And apart from the Everton game, I think he's come back and looked pretty good. So we need him in that kind of form if we're going to get anything at Anfield, especially if Van de Ven is definitely out. We'll wait to hear about that. But when it comes to Kevin Danso, what I like about him is, first of all, he's also got experience in big tournaments. He played at the Euros for Austria and under Ralf Rangnick, who plays a really aggressive pressing system like we play. So I think the way we play is not going to be alien to him, which is really encouraging, which means as well hopefully that means when he starts, it's not going to be a baptism of fire, in a sense that it's going to be something that he's not used to, playing on the halfway line, being aggressive, being man-to-man, winning those individual duels. That's what he's been doing in the last season at Lens. That's what he's been doing at international level. So hopefully that means he's ready to come in and do that with Spurs. And I think I was really impressed with him at the Euros. He's a real brick, kind of strong, monstrous centre-back. I think he probably comes in and automatically is probably our best centre-back in the air, probably our strongest centre-back as well physically. In terms of on the ball, I still think he's a bit behind Romero, but in terms of how I compare him to like Dragoshin, I think he's much more comfortable on the ball than someone like Dragoshin is at getting the ball forward and making those passes, carrying the ball as well. I think he's confident at carrying it into space. So I think he's a really good stylistic fit. Not to say, when everyone's fit, is he going to be, is he better than Romero and Van der Ven? I'm not 100% sold on that. But when it comes to upgrading the depth and having a centre-back who's ready to step in, who can fit the system, I'm much more comfortable with Danso there than I am with Dragoshin.
Yeah, he might even be some sort of a goal threat as well from the set pieces. I think definitely from defending set pieces, he'll be a massive asset to us. But the other way, scoring set pieces, sometimes Romero gets his head to a lot of the attacking set pieces and it's kind of hit or miss. But I think Danso, with how aggressive he is, how tall he is, how good he is in the air, like you say, best aerial threat that we have, I think he'll be a real threat from the attacking set pieces. And what we know about Danso, he's definitely good for a booking or two, and he'll definitely pick up his fair share. I mean, already picked up 3 bookings in 12 games this season. Last season he picked up 6 in 30, season before 7 in 37, and the season before he picked up 9 in 33 with 3 red cards over the course of 4 seasons as well. So he's definitely going to be picking up a few bookings here and there.
Yeah, I'm sure. And the way we play, we know how aggressive our centre-backs can be. So he's going to be making a lot of tactical fouls. He's going to be playing in the opposition half a lot. But he's comfortable doing that. And that's, I think, a part of the reason why we've gone for him and why we gazumped Wolves to get him through the door. So I think Wolves maybe wanted him because of his time playing at 3 at the back. Last season with Lens, they were playing 3 at the back and he was the central centre-back. So he's also used to that. But in the last 6 months and also international level, he's definitely been playing more how we like to play our defenders. So he's kind of used to both.
And, everyone kind of uses it as a bit of something to clown on, saying, oh, we're going for the same targets as Wolves and we've hijacked Wolves' bid. How good can he actually be? Well, actually, Juventus wanted him. Juventus wanted him before Wolves went for him, but Juventus just couldn't afford the deal that they were offering at the time. I think they were looking at a deal for like 30 million euros. He ended up coming to us for 25, but, he was a player that Juventus wanted and Juventus scouted and said that he's the guy for us, but they just couldn't get a deal over the line.
I mean, Wolves got, I think, Cunha signed for Wolves in January, I think, a couple of years ago. Ait Nouri, they scouted him. He's a pretty good player. João Gomez, a lot of people would like him as well. So there's a lot of talent in all these Premier League teams. And just because Wolves scouted him and wanted him doesn't mean he's not good enough for us as well. And I think it's good. I think it's going to turn out to be a good signing. I think you'll see once he's on the pitch, he's a good centre-back. And I think he'll do a really good job for us. And yes, do I believe he's good enough? Let's say we sell Romero. Is he good enough to be our first choice centre back and step up like like that for a long term, or are we going to have to sign another one? I would say I'm not sold that he's good enough to be our first choice, but is he good enough to be someone stepping in and being our third choice? I think so. I don't see any reason why not.
And Matisse Tell was probably the most impressive of the lot. Got him done on transfer deadline day. I was really surprised. I mean, I did kind of say the night before, is there any chance of a U-turn from Tell? But also, the reason that it surprised me a lot is because Ange has been very clear of saying, if you don't want to come just to play for Tottenham, I don't really want you. And he did reject us 24 hours or 48 hours before we got the deal over the line. So I guess it was just a sign of we just had to get someone in. And he is a player of supreme talent, 19 years of age, turning 20 in a couple of months' time. But from that aspect, are you surprised that we still went for him because of what Ange is usually like with transfers?
Well, beggars can't be choosers, I think, at this point. Am I surprised? Look, at the end of the day, he agreed. If for whatever reason, he's not coming here because he wants to play Champions League football. He's coming here because he wants to play. And yes, originally, I think it's more to do with the fact that it was a permanent deal. He didn't want to commit 5 years of his future here, when maybe there are some other offers on the table, and also the mess that Tottenham are currently in. But at the end of the day, Man United balked at paying that loan fee. Arsenal didn't seem actually as interested as has been reported. You know, some journalists saying they're pulling out all the stops to get him in, and clearly that wasn't true. So we're the ones that were showing willingness to bring him in. We're the ones that showed that we really wanted him and we're serious about bringing him to this football club, and we've got a plan for him. So maybe he saw that and thought, actually, you know, that actually means something, and I shouldn't just dismiss it just because of their league position, or, you know, Harry Kane's telling me whatever about the club, or Eric Dyer saying, you know, you don't want to anchor yourself to that club right now. I don't know what they've been saying, but I think he probably thought, when deadline day came around, these clubs aren't serious about me. There is only one club that is, and I'm better off going there. And if they're showing trust in me, I should show trust in them, and I should give it a go for at least 6 months. And if it doesn't work out, at least I've had 6 months developing myself and playing football. Whereas at Bayern Munich at the moment, I think this season his minutes have been extremely limited for one reason or another. Maybe he's still a raw talent, maybe he still needs to improve in a lot of different aspects, but hopefully at Tottenham we can really help develop him. And if it all works out, if he really develops into the player we're hoping he is, and we help him do that, maybe he'll think, I want to stick around here. But I still think that there's something telling me, pun the pun, but there's something telling me that right now we're still a long way from actually having him here permanently, as much as we do have an option to buy. I feel like he, in his mind, is thinking, I want to go back to Bayern after this season is done. But I think, you know, 5 months or 6 months is a long time in football. A lot can change, and if he smashes it out, if he's really happy here, he's here with his mate Odebear, and, you know, he's really a big part of the team and he feels important, maybe he will want to stick around. And maybe he feels like, I can just be here for a few years and Bayern will still be there when I'm 24 or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, like, on the face things, I want to get to the European squad in a sec, but on the face things, 3 transfers in, good quality in. Just very frustrating that we had to leave it this late to get the attacking target and centre back in. So all things considered.
But other clubs, you know, Man United, if you look at the window they had, struggled. Arsenal, I think I've just seen a quote from Arteta saying we had a lot of kind of targets this window, and it's very disappointing that we weren't able to pull what we wanted off. And that's, you know, somewhat a team with a lot more ambition and higher up on the table than us, really struggling to get players in. So it's never easy in January. We've all known that. Obviously, we're in a more desperate situation maybe than some of those other clubs. But apart from maybe Villa and City, you know, it's been a fairly quiet window for most other clubs.
Yeah, it has been. And look, I give credit for the players that have come in, because like I say, I like the quality that has come into the club in this January transfer window. But with the situation we were in, with the situation we knew we were in a long time before the transfer window opened, we were in desperate measures. We were out on our feet. The players were knackered coming into the January transfer window, right? So we had to do stuff early. We didn't. We only got the keeper in early. And yes, the keeper's made an impact. But with the business that we've done, like you said earlier in the stream, we've pretty much just given up the league campaign because of it. And it's not good enough, in my opinion. And that's why I'm going to give the transfer window a low rating. As much as I like the business that has happened, I still think we need another centre-back when you're looking at... even with Dano, we're still light at centre-back right now. So I still think it's a low score in terms of the transfer window because of it. So, yeah, look, there's positives and negatives to take. I think I'd give it a 5 out of 10 in my opinion.
I think a lot depends on if the Van der Ven news is true. If it is true and if his injury is anything serious, I'll probably give it a 4, because if we knew that and we just had to get a body and we failed to do that, and he's actually got an injury, then we really are in a bit of trouble again at centre back. If the Van der Ven is not true, or it's not a very serious injury, I'll probably give it a 5 out of 10 as well, just because we've sacrificed our league campaign and league performances and results for getting a few million off, and that is very frustrating, and it's something that we've seen many a time. But give credit where credit's due. The signings I am excited about, and I do think the players we've got in through the door are good players. They will hopefully help us from now to the end of the season. It's just frustrating that, you know, we've pretty much given up a whole league campaign for that. So a lot of these games is going to feel like a waste of time, to be honest. A lot of these league games, but let's just hope we can build some momentum in the league, maybe going into next season, and let's hope these cup competitions can bring some glory.
Yeah, it's a big week ahead, obviously, because if we do go out both cups in this next week, then you know they're really going to be looking at these early parts of the window, being like, "Why didn't you get something in earlier?"
Yeah, and all eggs on the Europa League basket. As long as we can keep our eggs in some of the other baskets, I think we've got a lot to fight for. But if we go out of both these cup competitions in this week, then obviously that'll be a massive blow to our season. But if we can at least get through in one of them, you know, all of a sudden you've got the Europa League and maybe a domestic cup still to fight for, and it could still be an unbelievable season.
Yeah, so the last thing to really discuss on the transfer window is this European squad moving into the next rounds, last 16 in March. We can only make 3 changes. That's the rules. We can only make 3 changes. So we've got 4 players that we need to add in: Kinski, Spence, Tell, and Danso. What do you think we do? Like, surely Kinski, and the easy one to think about is Kinski just misses out.
I think the reality is there's probably no good options here. Whoever you pick, you're probably upsetting someone, or you're leaving out a good player. So that is probably the first thing to say, and it's very frustrating that we're in that position. But obviously the players that will have to come out are Dragoshin, Forster, and I'm not sure if Lancashire counts, but maybe Lancashire. But I guess the only other one would be Werner. Would be the only other one. So if Lancashire counts to Lancashire, if it's not, then it'll have to be Timo to come out. So I think Tell has to be in there. That's a definite. I think Danso has to be in there. That's a definite. So the choice is basically Kinski or Spence. That's the choice we have to make, I think, when it comes to the Europa League squad. I think Danso and Tell are just no-brainers at this point. Tell's
Lancashire in the B list.
So, but what does that mean if he gets left out the B list? Can we put someone else on the B list or not?
I don't think any of the players that we bought qualify for the B list.
How do you qualify for the B list?
Don't you have to be at the club a certain amount of years for the B list?
We had a 23-man squad instead of 25. It's possible to add all 4. It's not possible to add all 4. So what you're saying, Werner has to be Werner, you're saying?
I think so.
Or is it an age thing?
A player may be registered on the B list if he is born before a certain date, since his 15th birthday, been eligible to play for the club. So none of the players we signed are of that.
So it has to be Timo who gets left out for Tell. Unless it's Odebear, because his injury is that bad that...
We are hearing Odebear is going to be back, though, in the next few weeks.
But he's had a serious injury, so he might not be ready. He might not be fully fit till March, April, who knows? Whereas Werner, his injury is not as bad.
But March is when the Europa League comes back around.
Yeah, but apparently he's back in training February, but maybe... I don't know. It might be Odebear is what I'm saying, because he had quite a serious injury, he had surgery, and maybe we feel like we don't want to... He might not be at his best maybe until after March, potentially. So...
even if he's available after March, that means from the quarterfinal onwards, he'll be available. So I think Odebear has to be in it.
Not necessarily. I think it's between him and Werner. Obviously, who we leave out, who we don't. I can't see anyone else really, because everyone else is pretty important to the team. So I think everyone else kind of has to be in the squad. So is it Kinski or is it Spence? Is the choice? I think
it's got to be Spence. It has to be Spence. With him showing how valuable he is for the team, with Vicario coming back, I mean, it has to be Spence. And also on top of that, with Brandon Austin showing that he can be an option as a backup of quite a good level. I mean, it has to be Spence.
The only issue is, has Kinski come in with assurances that he'll play European games as part of it, like when he came in? Because obviously we know that he's come in, and the whole big thing is he's coming to play. He hasn't come to play, second fiddle. He's come to be a part of the team, and obviously he's come in and done quite well. And as part of, like, I don't know, I'm not sure if there's an agreement in the contract or anything, but when Ange like sat him down and convinced him to come, or Lange or something, was part of that convincing, saying, look, you'll come in, you're going to play the Europa League games, and Vicario is still going to be our number one. And if so, would leaving him out cause any problems there in terms of leaving him out? But maybe he can play some of the Prem games instead of European games, and Vicario is our number one in Europe potentially. Maybe, especially with our league campaign, not really mattering that much this season. Maybe we can feel like we can tell Kinski, look, we told you were going to play in Europe. Unfortunately, given the circumstances, we are going to leave you out, but we're going to play you in the Prem. Do you think that's the situation?
I don't even know if we told him he was going to play in Europe, because when he came here, he wasn't even he can't even play in Europe because he wasn't in the squad.
Yeah, but we probably told him when it comes back, you'll be our European.
We don't
keeper.
know that. That's just like, you know what I mean. You're just assuming that. I don't think
I think he came because he wanted to play.
Yeah, but this is his first season. He's here as a long-term. He's 21. He's here as a long-term goalkeeper. Like, I don't think he came with assurances to play straight away. We're saying he was
going to play straight away.
Exactly. You knew he was going to come straight away because of the injuries, but I think he was on the full assumption that when Vicario comes back, he's our number one goalkeeper. I don't think he's come with any kind of, to play when Vicario's back. I think...
Well, if he keeps his place, he keeps his place.
Yeah, that's true, but that's on merit. It's not just because you've come here to play, right?
Right, and on merit, has he not earned starts based off how he's played? I guess
yes, he has, but on the face of things, Vicario's still our number one keeper, and with the situation that we are in with the squad and with the holes that we've got in defence, we need to bring Jed Spence in. So I think if you explain that to him, I think he'll understand that. Completely, being a 21-year-old goalkeeper.
I get you, but I think he's also not going to be happy sitting on the bench for the rest of the season.
Yeah, so if he's not happy, he's not happy, but I think he'll see the bigger picture.
And my point is, I think you'll have to play him in the Prem games.
So if he plays the Prem games, he plays the Prem game. That's fair enough, but I still think that he'll understand the situation in terms of being left out the European squad.
I think he's going to have to, because we need Spence. That's the reality. Spence has been great. He's deserved his chance. I know Doggy's going to be back by the time the Europe comes back around, but Spence has deserved his earning his place in the squad. And the reality is Austin's come in and done well anyway. So looks like we have a good backup keeper there. If Vicario, when Vicario comes back without Kinski, so I think. I reckon, I know I'm just positing, I do think they probably told Kinski when he first came he'll be given some of the European games. So I think it'll be a bit disappointing to him to be left out. But if they kind of tell him, you can have the kind of Prem games, or some of you'll be starting some games in the Prem, and we don't leave him out in the cold, I'm sure that's a situation he can be all right with. So I think that's what we got to do. We got Spence, Danso, and Tell, bring them in, and unfortunately Kinski will be left out.
I don't even think they told him that he's going to get the European games. I think they told him, look, you're going to come, you're going to play straight away because of Vicario's injury and because of the situation we're in right now. And then after that, you're going to be fighting for your spot, and Vicario will be number one, and you'll be fighting for your spot, and it'll be up to you to earn your spot. Vicario hasn't done anything to kind of say that Kinski's better than him right now. Vicario is in the leadership group. He's got big stature within this squad. And he's got a big future ahead of him here, Kinski. I don't think he's under any illusions where in the pecking order and where he's at in the squad right now.
I've no doubt, but he's obviously left his position starting for, what was it, Slavia Prague. Obviously, Tottenham is a bigger team, but I'm pretty sure he wouldn't have come if he was... he's not going to come if he's being told he's going to sit on the bench. Obviously, he knows he's going to be playing for the first month or two, but I'm sure the club told him, look, you'll come and you're going to get game time. We're going to give you... We're going to play you. You're not just going to come here and sit on the bench. You're going to play. And I know when Vicario comes, he's still our number one, but we'll probably give you some game time either in Europe. Obviously, I reckon they probably told him in Europe, but I think... with the situation that we are in, obviously when we signed him, it was a different situation maybe, and it's now changed. So I think the situation has to be malleable, but I think
it was immediate game time because of the situation we're in.
I think we're going to have to play him, I reckon, in some Prem games. I
think the way we should manage it is play him in the Prem games leading up to Europa games, and play him in the Cup games as well.
Yeah, like Cup games, yeah.
So I think that's more than enough game time for a 21-year-old keeper coming from Czech Republic.
Yeah, but you got to remember it's a 21 keeper who's starting week in, week out, and he was playing Europa League football, and he was making a name for himself. So he doesn't want to come here and sit on the bench. I think that's why I think he agreed to come, because he had those assurances he wasn't just going to be sitting on the bench. I think.
Yeah, maybe, but also when you get into the business end of the season, you want your your biggest in stature players, particularly your leaders, to play, and Vicario's that of Spurs.
Yeah, that's also true.
So look, that's the situation of the transfer window. I'm happy. I'm also not happy. I'm happy with the players come in. I still think we didn't do enough at centre back, but the timing was just horrific in terms of the transfers coming in. So in terms of the way we managed the transfer window, I think it's a pretty much another shit show, to be honest.
Well, in terms of how we planned for it, doesn't seem to be great planning yet again. It seems to be kind of going from one thing to the other, kind of waiting for opportunities and not being strategic. And that's just how we've always looked. So we've always approached the January window. Even when we've done well with like Decky and Bentancur, again, seem just to be opportunities.
Scrambling around at the end.
Yeah. That's Tottenham for you. But we did get over the line, some good signings when other clubs didn't. So it's never easy.
Look, we'll see. We can all judge it right here, right now, but we don't actually know what it looks like until the end of the season, until it's all said and done, and how much of an impact these players have. So we can judge it properly at the end of the season, but that's just our current feelings on it right now. On the 4th of February as the window shut last night. So that is our review of the transfer window. Let us know your scores out of 10 of how you're rating the transfer window in the comments section below, people.